I have owned Marble Inc. again in Northwest Arkansas for almost 4 years now. But during COVID in 2020, all the tattoo shops closed down, and so I had to make money somehow. And so I would just colored pencil make like portraits of people's family members.
You, even now, as successful as your business has become and as well as you're doing, you still want to keep progressing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the mark of a really good artist.
He goes, I want a devil on either butt cheek, but I want it to shovel coal into my asshole.
Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. My name is Zayden, and now we're talking with Karina Gregory. She is a tattoo artist, but that is a very oversimplification of the things that you do. Amazing work, but I'm going to let you hear it from her directly. Tell us about yourself. Tell us, what you do.
Yeah, sure. So, as he said, my name is Karina. I'm a tattoo artist in Northwest Arkansas. So I would like to thank you for picking me. I feel like there's so many tattoo artists in Northwest Arkansas that you could have chose from. And
I've known you. I peek behind the curtain. I've known her for a long time. We knew each other in high school.
Yeah.
And she did my tattoo. So I actually really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
You were one of the first people I thought of whenever
cool.
I came up with this concept. So.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I felt very, excited. There's so many artists in Northwest Arkansas now, and I think that, if you're just going to interview one and you picked me, that felt very special.
Well, you're definitely the first, and I'm open to different perspectives, but you are the first tattoo artist that was on my radar at all. So,
cool. Yeah.
Plus, I've gotten to see your growth over time, so it's really exciting to get that internal perspective, because we never really talked about that directly. It's mostly just about tattoos and ideas that we have, but I would like to learn more about your personal growth and your journey with it. So sorry to interrupt.
No, you're totally fine. Getting into it. But I have owned Marble Inc. again in Northwest Arkansas for almost 4 years now. It'll be 4 years that will be open. It's technically it's been 4 years. But it'll be 4 years of being open to the public in January. So it's almost about 3 3/4 of it. But yeah, that's probably been one of the most difficult and exciting things. It's almost like having a kid.
Right.
It's the same level of responsibility, and sometimes it's really exciting, and sometimes it sucks, and there's a lot of weird stuff that comes with it, and super cool stuff that comes with it, and it's fun, and I hope I get to do it for a really long time. I'm really, really excited about it.
Yeah. I would you also talk a little bit about, because one of the things I'm very interested in is, is it illustrations or the entirety, the writing and everything? You've done a few children's books,
So I've done one, and it's just the illustrations. So it was 2019, and I was reached out by somebody that I also went to high school with, and she said that she wanted to start illustrating children's books. And she reached out and asked if I would like to illustrate it. And I was like, I don't know how to do that, but let's try it. So she basically, it was really simple. You can get it on Amazon. It was really simple. It was just called This Is My Kitty. And it was you'd open the page. The first page just says, this is my kitty. My kitty likes to play. And then I would just illustrate each page like that. So she just sent me an email that was there's 12 pages. This is what each page says. And then I would just draw something that kind of, represented a little girl playing with the cat, letting the cat sleep, bugging the cat, all that kind of fun stuff that comes with having little cats when you're a kid. She wanted to do a second book about a dog, like a puppy. But I don't know if it either never got there or if I was never asked to do the second one. But just having one is super cool.
Right.
Having that kind of in the portfolio of artistic things that I've done in my life.
Yeah. Speaking of that, what's some other things, you've done this, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But what's some other things, and I'll try and grab some pictures as well to share with them.
Oh yeah.
But what's some other like artistic endeavors you've done?
Well, so one thing that I did that kind of has slightly trailed off into not COVID era, but during COVID in 2020, all the tattoo shops closed down, and so I had to make money somehow. And so I would just colored pencil make like portraits of people's family members. And I would just kind of redraw it and send it to them, like realistic, almost like, I mean, I wouldn't draw people's naked relatives or anything.
You haven't been asked yet.
But not yet. Not yet. I will, if anybody's interested. But so it would just be portraits, or like a lot of people, like if their aunt, uncle, grandma passes away and they've got a child, I'll draw them, kind of Photoshop them together and then draw them together in the same painting or drawing, just to kind of have that memory of them together if they never actually got to meet. And that seems to be something that rarely gets asked about, but I still will, do that kind of commission every once in a while whenever things get slower in the wintertime. Usually around Christmas time, people ask for those, and it's slower in tattooing, so it works out great.
That sounds really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I may actually have to see about one of those for my dad. I think that'd be really cool. So, but yeah, anyway, so some pretty cool stuff. We'll definitely dive some more into that kind of stuff as well. Mm-hmm. But let's kind of start with your background and like childhood. Obviously, like you don't have to go too in depth if there's anything you don't want to talk about, but relatively kind of let's start with like, what was your dream job going up? Like, is this kind of what you envisioned, or did you not really know? Was there something you had in particular?
So 2 days after I was born. I don't know. I don't really remember having too much of a childhood dream, but I do remember drawing a lot, and not like, oh, I like to draw. It was just like, I have to. Like, it didn't feel like I love doing this. I need to keep doing this. I want to do it forever. I just couldn't stop drawing with things. Just little side note, I'm left-handed. And so I always found it really difficult because people would say you write with the right hand. You write with your right. So that would be helpful with the left and right thing. And that just threw me off. I was 12 or 13 before I was like, I'm left-handed and I have to accept it. But when I was younger, I would write something and I'd be like, that's wrong. And so I do it this way, and I'm like, that's extremely wrong. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. But I don't know, drawing was always something that was very like, I was very in tune with that. Writing, I have vivid memories of like going into my sister's closet with a crayon, being, I don't know what age, but very young and barely able to write my name. So probably like 6 or 7. And I would get behind her clothes and I would write my name 3 or 4 times, and I'd be like, beautiful. And I'd get out of her closet. And then my mom would go in there and move the clothes around and be like, okay, so Karina obviously drew on the wall. And I'm like, no, it's Veronica's closet.
It's definitely not me.
I was like, why would I go to her closet? She's drawing in her own closet, but it was my name. I had a very, very supportive grandfather who loved to buy like drawing books, this step by step, draw a pea and then give it a leg and there's a dog and stuff like that. So I had a lot of encouragement with that. And then I don't know, there were things that also, again, talking about my sister, she would not like to do things, and so I would want to do them, and I felt like she didn't really like to color, so I was like, I'm coloring. I'm going to do it because you won't come take my color. She didn't seem too interested in it. I don't know, remember
that's something you wouldn't have to share. So it's something that you could have for yourself.
Yeah.
And growing
like
up
I remember her coloring a little bit if like all of the stuff was out, but she would never go out of her way to go get coloring books or to color with me. So I was like, I can do this by myself. So I would being
in a multi-child home, that opens the opportunity for you to do something that you're never really going to have to argue about.
Yeah.
And that you can just be happy with, and something that's yours.
Yeah. Yeah, and then just over time, getting closer into high school, I started to really want to be a doctor, and not just any kind of doctor, but like a cosmetic surgeon, a reconstructive surgeon. So like you get in a motorcycle accident, you lose half your face. I want to build it back. I want to have that creation. Like I want to do that. But shortly after, a couple like anatomy classes later and like one science class, I was like, well, that's too hard for me. I'm not doing all of that. So the next best thing there was art. And I I more so went into the art classes in high school because they were easy, and it wasn't like I want to know what I'm doing and get better. And that is where probably one of my first and biggest art influences came in, was one of my art teachers from high school.
What's their name?
His name is Carson Rankin. Very sweet person. He's very hard on artists. A lot of people weren't excited to be there because he was like, do better, do it. But, for learning purposes, to teach you, because that was, while it is an art class and it's probably easy to just kind of fuck off. Can I say bad words?
I don't care.
Okay. It's probably really easy to just kind of fuck off and do whatever, just doodle a little bit and be like, okay, hey, I would do something that I was like, okay, I feel like I'm proud of this. And he'd be like, yeah, that sucks. And I'd be like, okay. And so it would make me work harder, even though I didn't quite want to. Right. And then after probably 2 years of that, and I the first 2 years of high school, he was my art teacher, and by the third year I was like, I'm tired of this guy. I had him 4 years in a row, every year. But he so he was just a really good influence on like making me do it and being like, no, you're getting, on a scale here, you're getting a D, and it looked way better than anybody else's in the class. And it wasn't a D because I wasn't doing good compared to other kids. It was just, he's like, I know what you can do and you're not doing it. And then I just started, it kind of sparked a little fire there. And I was just like, okay. I was like, not only am I good at this, but like, I'm good at this. Like, I can do something with this. And that's kind of where it came to be, the whole, like, I wanted to do something from it. So it did take a long time. It wasn't something that was like, I've been inspired since I was a baby.
Right. And I expect that to be the case with most people I interview. No one really knows where they're going to end up. Like, I'm working on a voice acting career, but if you would have asked me when I was a kid if that's ever, hey, that thing that Robin Williams does, you think you can do it? I would have been like, what?
Yeah.
But now that's a goal that I'm working towards.
Yeah.
So.
It sounds so like, I don't know, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, since a kid I've wanted to be an actress, and since I was a child I can remember, drawing and wanting to do it all the time, and I feel like I just don't have that story,
Like, I was inspired from the age I was.
Yes.
As soon as I could remember.
Conscious.
Yeah, I get you. So moving on from like art in general, when did you start leaning more into the tattoo industry? When did you kind of realize, okay, this is something that I think I can do and want to do, and thought you would be successful at?
Sure. So probably the second or third year into high school, when I started to be like, expressing myself, finding what I wanted to do and all that kind of stuff, I was like, okay, well, tattoos aren't just for scary biker guys. Like, there were a lot more on the internet. They're cute flowers and cute little things like this. It didn't seem like it was so specific to just like big burly men. I was like, okay, so maybe I could do that. I was interested in having a tattoo or getting one, and I hadn't had one at that point. And I had I'd asked a couple people, like, should I do that? That seems like it would be something that would be like right up my alley. And there were surprisingly a lot of people that did not agree with that. They were like, no, you can't do that. You shouldn't be there. There was a couple years after that, I did end up getting my first tattoo, and I asked my tattoo artist, I was like, if I wanted to do this, and he's like, don't. Like, oh, okay. And then I even remember technically, so my art teacher, Mr. Rankin from high school, he used to be a tattoo artist. And I have another story about that too. We'll full circle later. Okay. So he was he was a tattoo artist. And I was like, okay, what if I want to do this? And he was like, no, I don't think that would be your thing. So I kind of got discouraged from it. The guy that was doing my tattoos was like, no. The person teaching me, no. So I kind of let go of it for a little bit. And then the whole, I don't know, I went to a couple shops, typical apprenticeship, went in and was like, are you willing to teach anybody? And they all said no. And so I was like, you know what? That's fine. Maybe it's just not my time. And then the actual like getting to tattoo kind of just fell into my lap when I stopped trying. So that's kind of how that came about. But it was, right whenever I first started learning or figuring out that I wanted to draw for a living, the tattooing was kind of like, is that the way I want to get into it? So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And going back to your art teacher, you said you had something else.
So I've known him for, I can't do quick math, but probably about like 14 years, I think. And he tattooed. So he was a tattoo artist, and I have tattooed like his wife and a lot of my old high school teachers, art teachers, all kinds of people. And he actually kept a lot of his supplies, and he stopped, I believe he stopped tattooing when he started teaching. But he kept all of his stuff. And then not too long ago, he actually was like, hey, here's all my old stuff. And so I have a lot of his old like tattoo machines and things like that. And I think that's super cool to like have his things. I did a little tattoo. I don't know how to use, well, I know how to use it. I don't know all the little details about using the older machines. But I did do like a tiny little tattoo on myself just with his stuff, just to kind of have like a little like cutesy little memory.
That's really cool.
Yeah. I thought that was super awesome that of all the people that have probably become tattoo artists or that he could have given it to, he picked me.
Yeah. That's really sweet. That's a sentiment that you can't, just come across on a normal basis. Yeah. So that's really cool.
Yeah. And him being such a big influence in how it all even started, I think was really cool. It wasn't just like, okay, well, I have an influence and I have, a couple more sprinkled in here, and he was one of them. He was like the first person to like really start it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Because that actually answered one of my questions, but I'll search for a few more out of you. Do you have any like specific idols? I know one that you went to recently, I believe, and so you could tell us about her, right? And then you've told us about him. Yeah. But any other idols you can think of?
None that come off the top of my head that are not the two that you've kind of mentioned. There's always, I think with the amount of social media that you get, I think it's hard to be like, I found a person and I'm just like infatuated with this one person. Because right now, going on to Instagram, I can just type in tattoo and there's 5,000 amazing tattoo artists. And I'm like, okay, well, I like all of them. It's hard to just have like a person to follow and be like, I want to be like this. I want to learn everything that they want to learn. But like you had mentioned, I recently went to a seminar from a girl that I've been following for a really long time. I don't remember if I already said that it was down in Dallas or not. But it was down in Dallas. So I flew down there, and it was a 2-day seminar. The first day, she was sitting there doing a tattoo on somebody. We could kind of circle around her. She'd tell us what she's doing, why she's doing things, how she's doing things. And then the next day, we had the fake skins, those little silicone thingies, and she stenciled it up, and we tattooed the same thing that she tattooed the day before. She would walk around and kind of help us and say, nope, you're not doing that right, you need to do it this way, or if I had questions or anything like that. So she kind of walked us through the same design that she did the day before. That way we can take everything that we learned and apply it immediately, and then take it on home and learn, just imply it. Is that the word? Imply?
Implement it.
Yeah, whatever. And implement that into the everyday tattoos that you do. So that was super cool. That was a lot of fun, and that gave me like the weird little I don't know, like whenever I meet a cute boy and like my heart's all pitter patter, I would get the same like after I would do the tattoo, or even just the day that she did it. I was like so excited. I'd go to my hotel room and just like giggle and just sit there and be so happy. That's
awesome. Yeah. And I remember us discussing it a couple of times beforehand that you were thinking about it, and you were like, man, this class, it'd be so good, but also, am I gonna learn anything? Like, it's up to me to actually learn it. Yeah. But so if I walk in there, am I wasting my money because I can't keep up, or I'm not, going to absorb the knowledge correctly?
It's they're pretty expensive to go to these classes. They're very small, so they charge a little bit more to keep the classes small. So the classes are really small, but
it's more intimate that way too.
Yes, yeah. Sometimes, I don't know, I get in these moods where I don't want to learn. So what if I just, what if I just fall on that day where I'm like, nope, my brain's not going to take in any information. And so I had brought notebooks. I was taking pictures. I brought my camera. I was doing all kinds of things because I was like, I have to learn this. And thankfully, she was a great teacher, which helped a lot. She had made PowerPoints that she went through, and she sent it to us afterwards. She recorded the whole tattoo, and she sent that to us afterwards as well. That way we could just continue to look back on what we had, learned and everything. And she still stays in contact. Like if I design something she's got a huge following on social media, so it feels great that out of all of the things that she's seeing as well, that she's seeing my little tattoos and being like, that looks great. And so she did a great job.
Pitter patter.
Yeah, my little heart. But yeah, so just having a good teacher and having her stay in touch and make it look like the things that, or not make it look like, but just make it feel like the things you're doing afterwards are good. You know, she's not just like take your money, show you something, bye, never speaking to you ever again. She's staying, you know, showing you that you're doing good, and I can send her pictures or, you know, designs or whatever and be like, would you change this? Would you do something to this? And sometimes she's like, you know, I don't like that one little leaf, or maybe you should do this. And sometimes she's like, that's great, that's beautiful, I wouldn't change a thing. And so it's great. Yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that it went so well,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. So you did mention, it kind of fell into your lap finally being able to do tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you transition from wanting to do it to just doing it?
Mm-hmm.
And then a bit more grand scheme, we'll get into it a little bit deeper. But
Yeah.
then how did you go from doing tattoos to owning your own shop?
Okay. Yeah, loaded question.
Yeah.
So the whole wanting to do it to actually doing it thing, like I said, when I wanted to do it, there was a little bit of an interest there. Like, there was a pretty big interest, but everybody was saying like, no, it's not going to work out. So I was kind of like, you know what? They all know what they're talking about. I don't. So,
Right.
so I did, I kind of quit looking into it. Actually doing the tattoos, I don't want to get too into the story because there's, I just don't want to hurt any feelings there, but there was, I don't think that I was invited to do the tattoos to be a tattoo artist in their shop. I think I was used as a pawn to kick somebody else out of the shop. But I was like, you know what? I'm glad you chose me, and I'll pretend like I don't know anything. Yeah, I was like, I'm just showing up. They just told me to show up. That was actually a lot harder than I thought because apprenticeships, you have to pay for them. Mine was, I think, about $7,000 to pay for. Luckily, the guy who was teaching me was very kind, and he let me pay. I think it was $5,000 up front, and then as I started getting paid doing tattoos, I just gave him a little bit extra until that $7,000 was paid off. But I was working at Cox Communications at the time, and I ended up asking my mom. I was like, "Can I just live with you for like a year while I learn everything I need to?" And I was like, just pay for me like I'm a little baby. And I was like, if you could just help me, I was like, I guarantee you that this will be great. I was like, I feel it. I just know it, that this is going to be exactly what I need to do. And I was like, but I need to not work, as silly as that sounds. And I need to put all my focus and all my energy into the tattoo learning. That way it takes off. That way it works and it's doing good. And I was like, I just don't think I'm going to be learning what I need to the way that I need to if I'm working full time and then doing a couple hours of the tattooing, the apprenticeship, the learning in that department. And thankfully my mom was like, okay, you can come stay with me. And she was very hesitant to be like, are you sure this is the path you should take? Like, that doesn't sound like a good job. It kind of sounds like, you know, that doesn't make a whole lot of money. Are you sure you can support your kids with this? Can you do this with that? You know, like normal mother questions when you kind of get into something funky. Right. But so I don't know, I just had this little feeling. I was like, nope, this is it. This is what I need to do. If you could please, just this one little chance. You know, and my mother's a wonderful mother and she's very supportive. And, you know, but I was like, one more, just, you know, believe me on this one. I know I've probably said it about 30 million things. I'm like, no, you know, I have to go out into the woods and get all this wood, build the boat, and it'll be, you know, it's what I have to do. And all those, like, I don't know, those schemes that you come up with. She's always been very supportive, and this one was a very big thing to ask of her. And I was very thankful that she was just like, okay. She's like, you say that's going to be important? She's like, you can, come live with me. So I did that. I lived with my mom, and I just kind of mooched off of her until I was able to start working. And luckily, I think one thing that helped me a whole lot was I went to high school in the town that I started working in. So whenever I was like, all right, well, I'm shit at it, but I'm going to do tattoos and I need people to just come get them.
Right.
So there was a lot of people. I was about 23, so everybody was around my age when I first started. And so everybody was like, okay, yeah, I'll get a shitty tattoo for free. So
Yeah.
it was a good age to start building this community of people that was like, fuck it, I'll do one.
Right.
And then from there, the same people were getting, more mature as well. And so it just grew well. I think starting off being young,
Yeah.
doing shitty tattoos and getting older and doing better tattoos on people that are getting older, it just flowed the way that it needed to, I think.
Right. And then those people have the same perspective I did.
Yeah.
That's where I got to slowly see your improvements over time. And, which, pushed me to be like, you know what? I'm going to get a tattoo. And reach out.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I think that everything grew well with that. The whole owning my own shop thing was kind of a very random idea. I wanted to learn more. It was about 3 years after I had been licensed. And so the shop that I was at, while they were all very kind and nice and everything, every time I wanted to kind of go adventure or explore, I wanted to go to a convention, they were just like, no, that's not a good idea. Everybody's drunk. And I was like, okay, but it's an adventure and I might learn something. And it just seemed like everybody's very comfortable. And that's not a terrible thing, but I felt like I had so much more to learn. And I was like, I gotta go. I'm so sorry. I had talked to other shops about working there, but some of them, you walk in and just right off the bat, you're like, nope. You turn around, you walk back out.
Nope.
Yeah. I went into one shop and I was like, hi, I'm a licensed tattoo artist in Arkansas and I'm looking for somewhere to go. And they just said, we need a girl in the shop. And that feels odd to be like, okay, like, I get it, because, like, having a female piercer is usually a little bit more easy than having a male piercer when it comes to specific things. But the way they said it and how quickly they said it, I was like, I don't know if I want to be the female this year.
Yeah.
That scared me.
Like, for that to be the only reason that they're immediately like, yes is also like, okay, red flags. Why haven't you been able to get one?
Yeah.
Like, why haven't you been able to get one and keep one?
Yeah. My that was odd. And then the whole, like, you don't want to look at my portfolio or ask where I've worked, how long I've been working. You were just like, yep, come on, I'm on board.
A bullet is what it sounds like.
Yeah. And I was with the father of my kids at the time, and he was like, just so casual too. Like, I'm pretty sure he was playing video games, and I was talking about it, and I was like, I can't find somewhere to go. And he's like, just go work by yourself. He's like, eating something, playing video games. He just casually says it. And I was like, okay, that sounds like a lot of work. And I was like, yeah, I kind of started tuning that out. And he, at the time, worked, like, commercial construction, and he worked for the guy that owns this plaza. And he was like, just tell Jeremy you want to rent a space. I was like, okay, I can't just tell somebody that I need, like, like tax documents, and they're going to want work history and employment history, and I don't have any of that. Like, I don't have an LLC history or any kind of credit for this. And he was like, just tell Jeremy to do it anyway. I was like, okay. So I just called Jeremy and was like, can I just do this? And he just said, sure. And I think one of the reasons that it worked out the way it did, as funny as it sounds, and this is all, like, my whole life is just, like, doing things at what seems like the wrong time, but is actually the perfect time to do it. But I did it in August of 2020 is when I moved over here. And I think it was 5 months after COVID started, and that was the worst time to start a small business. But I think Jeremy, the landowner, was like, nobody else is going to rent it anytime soon. So if this works out, then great. And then you get, your little credit build up, and you get your LLC built up and everything. And if it doesn't work out, then, he's like, no harm, because nobody's going to be renting it anyway.
Right.
And so, yeah, so I kind of moved in, and I don't know, everything just kind of worked out great. I was here by myself for about 9 months before the first artist kind of came in and settled in. And then other people have just kind of been in and out from there. And I didn't quite have the intention of working with a lot of people or managing a lot of people. And that still scares me to be above somebody. I don't like to call them my worker bees, I would rather be like, no, these are my coworkers. I just want to give them a space to work. I don't want to manage them. I don't want to be in charge of them. I don't want to make a bunch of rules while I have to, but I don't quite love that. So I like it being small.
It's not the part of the job that you wanted. Like, it does it help you in the long run? Does it help, your company make more money? Does it, that's all nice.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, for you, all you want to be able to do is live out your little adventures, like you said,
Yeah.
and do art and do the things that you enjoy.
Yeah.
And if they can contribute to that space, of course you're going to have to set some boundaries and
Yeah.
some rules, but you're like, just let me do my adventures and y'all just do your thing.
Yeah. And, whenever, I started doing these fun adventures like the conventions and working at other shops, guest spotting and stuff like that. There's my coworker, Seneca, he actually was really excited. He's the one, he had a client who first brought up the going to convention thing, because the first couple years that I was doing this, I wasn't so much worried about doing the adventures anymore as I was just like doing the business. It seemed to kind of take over. But after about 2 years, or not even 2 years, probably about the first year and a half, it started to kind of like steady out. I knew what I was doing. I got all the paperwork done. Everything was smooth. And so after about a year and a half, like 2 years into it, Seneca's client was like, "Are you going to this convention?" And we were like, "Sure, let's go." And it just sparked something else. And so we just started going on these all the time. I think we probably about 5 a year is what we kind of averaged, 5 or 6 a year. Going to these different places and all these new fun adventures, kind of like I wanted to do. The seminars, just going to new shops, going to the conventions and all these new spaces. It just seems like something that would have been harder to do had I stayed where I was first tattooing at.
Right. And so from not just a perspective of, because I assume that with it being your own business, you're also making more money for yourself as well.
Yes.
And so it's like, it seems like you had every single reason in the world to make your own business.
Yeah.
So, and the fact that you're getting to do more of the things that you wanted to do in the first place is, on top of it. It may have been the reason that sparked it. So even if you did eventually focus a little bit more on the business because you had to, at least now it paid off, and that you're getting to do those adventures, go to these conventions, and get the opportunity to go away to Dallas and learn, something that you really, really want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think and we'll get into that a little bit more, but I think it's really interesting and cool that you, even now, as successful as your business has become and as well as you're doing, you still want to keep progressing. Mm-hmm. And that's the mark of a really good artist, in my opinion.
I think working at the shop that I had started out at, again, they're all great people, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that some people just work better being in their own little bubble. I get really bored with things just being the same for too long. And so if I start just doing regular tattoos and I'm not doing anything fun, and like, I feel like it kind of starts to get sloppy. Not just in the tattoo part, but like in the business part. If nothing new is happening, then it seems like I get like, okay, well, I'm kind of bored, tired of doing this. So if there's new things happening, new adventures, I get an email probably once a week where like the city of Rogers is like, "Hey, you have to do something," and I'm like, "Oh, no idea." And while it's kind of irritating to get that email, it also makes me feel good because I'm like, I'm doing something that I'm supposed to be doing. It's, it's not just, like, oh, I signed a paper, I have a business, this is it. Right. And the whole, you had mentioned that, yes, I do technically make more physical money, but it does cost a lot of time and effort and a lot of energy to keep a business going. Like, It's not just, like I said, signing the papers and being like, okay, I own a business now. But, I have to keep up with the city of Rogers. I have to keep up with the state of Arkansas. I have to keep up with the IRS. I have to make sure that all my paperwork matches their paperwork. And, it's a lot of stuff with that. There's a lot of consent forms, health departments that we have to deal with and stuff like that can, if one little thing goes wrong, it doesn't just affect me, it affects all the artists that work here. If I do something wrong, even not tattoo wise, just business wise, it can hurt them. And so I have to be on top of everything, which, at the end of the day, I want to just kind of tear my station down and leave, but sometimes I can't do that. I have to stay here. I have to do paperwork. I have to make sure that things are matching up and that everything's all set up correctly. And that can be the not fun part. That's the cost, of
owning your own
basically
business.
Yeah, of owning my own business is like, while I do technically get all of the money working for another shop, you give them commission or booth rent, however they work it out. While I do get to keep all my money, I still have to pay for this space. So I don't think I'm making more it feels like I am, but I got more bills to pay on top of it.
Right.
But there is, like I said, the cost of the effort and the time that goes into just keeping the business a legal, running, smooth business.
Right.
Yeah.
And like I think that at the end of the day, you're acquiring skills from just the business owning aspect, as well as you're honing your blade, right?
Yeah.
Like if there aren't new things and you aren't consistently, trying to adapt and change and learn, like you said, your blade's going to get dull.
Yeah.
You're not going to be as quick on the draw. You're not
definitely
like there's so much that goes into that. And like for me, while I'm trying to start up my voice acting, sometimes I'll get long periods of a good amount of work. And when I'm in it, I feel like I'm getting better every day. And then I'll hit a stagnant time where it's like 6 months. And it's like sometimes I don't do good enough where I'm, even if I don't have work that's coming in, I should be practicing. I should be looking for more gigs. I should be, and so like it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
You're keeping yourself on your toes, and then you're adding to that by going to these conventions and going to, to this thing in Dallas where you get to learn something new. Yeah. Especially because I know, like I was saying before, that learning about the flowers and how to do them a certain way that you really wanted to do is something that you're really looking forward to, and you had brought up on many occasions.
Yes, yeah.
We'll kind of move on from that. We'll get more into the business and just the commonplace, like what you do. What do you like about tattooing? What do you like about tattoos? General overall statement.
Yeah. So tattoos are crazy. I mean, just think about the fact that we've got this, you think about, I don't know, the science behind it and all that kind of stuff about how it just stays where it's at is wild. You've heard the whole, you have a new set of skin every 7 years. Where is the tattoo ink? What's happening? It's just super cool that we can do something to ourselves. Like, we can get haircuts, and that's neat. And I mean, I love, cutting my hair in a different way, styling it in a different way, and all that kind of stuff. But there's something about it just, feels, without getting too weird about it, like ritualistic, like getting something and it will be there forever. And it's not just saying that it's going to be there forever.
I mean, like, if you look at the history of tattoos, that's absolutely I mean, what is it in Samoan heritage? Like, by the time that's part of their like trial into manhood is like getting tattoos all over their body.
Yeah.
And so like in different parts of the world, tattoos have been used as tradition and tribe like. So when you're talking about it, it's almost primal. It's like something we do to ourselves intentionally, and we have done it for a very long time. Yeah. No, it's they're way cool. They're everywhere. It doesn't seem like, as much as, society does give it the whole like, oh, maybe you shouldn't, and it's getting way better. Oh, yeah. Now that's almost virtually gone. Yes. Yeah. While, just the history behind it, the fact that it does feel kind of like a ritual, and while it's a little bit more fun now, I think, than it was whenever we were saying like primal age, we're tattooing each other to show heard a lot more things. Back then too. Yeah. But I don't know, there's just something fun about it. There's something like, we don't get to take much with our grave, but we get these, I can't really tell you. I can ask you. We'll never be separated. Yeah. I was like, I can ask you to put me in a specific outfit, but you can't take my tattoos away from me, Like, they're Unless super you're willing cool. To peel my skin off.
Yeah. There's things that, like, people that do that for you, like where they frame like chunks of your skin. There's just, I don't know, picking something, like the whole meaningful part of tattoos, just picking something and being like, I want this forever, just seems awesome. Being able to be like, I want something for my kid forever is wild. Like, keeping their birthday cards is super fun, and just being able to do such an important thing for somebody is one of, like, I guess my favorite parts about it. Well, and the fact that I get to just doodle all day is kind of my job. Not to, say that my job isn't important or difficult, but like that's kind of what it feels like I'm doing all day, is I get to doodle and I get to draw, and like I get to do I don't get to work. I don't work. I just kind of, other than
that, at least that part of it.
Yeah.
Like you said, the business
the
part.
business part's the lame
business part is your work.
Yeah.
The tattooing is
Yes.
the fun thing you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And whenever you do what you love, you never work a day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how true that is, but it is certainly more true. I think more of the time when you're enjoying what you do, it becomes so much easier to get invested and continue that rhythm.
Yeah, it sometimes it does, like waking up and going to work every day to anybody doing anything starts to feel kind of like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go to work today. I really wish I didn't, book somebody at 10 o'clock in the morning, things like that. But there's always that, like, hearing other people complain about their office jobs. I'm like, whoo, I will never have to do that. And even though I get the whole office sit down, do the bookkeeping of owning a shop, it still is, I think, a million times better than working the office jobs that people are complaining about all the time. I'm like, I don't know what I would do if I was not tattooing right now, because there's not a single job that I think.
Imagine
and I think I've
trying
gotten
to go back.
Yes, yeah. I think I've gotten so pampered life with this that I'm like, ew. I have to do like actual like stuff. Like, that seems, wildly not magical. I feel like my life gets magical sometimes, and I feel like I don't want to not.
And you would miss out on that.
Yeah. I want to do this.
So I think we've already kind of answered this one. What do you dislike about owning your own shop? Is there any other ones you can think on top of like the bookkeeping and the
I think the whole managing people thing is not great. I have been actually looking into going to like a college, like a tech college, and taking short classes on management, because I think that might help.
It'd be boring, but
they would definitely be boring. But I've been looking into that. I'm not sure if I would do it. It just depends on, how things go. If it's going kind of smooth, but if things start going downhill on the whole me not being a good manager part, then I'd probably take some sort of classes on management, marketing, all that kind of stuff.
You also want to be able to show the people that are working under you that, hey, you do care about like making this a good place that people want.
I'm not just some lollygagger that opened a shop randomly one day and was like, don't know what I'm doing.
But no, I think that's a good point. And the fact that at least you're considering it, right? Like so far, for the most part, it's gone all right. But if there's enough bumps in the road, you're like, okay, I need to learn how to smooth this terrain out so that, we don't have these kind of issues in the future.
Yeah.
So I think at least you're considering it, and that shows that it is important to you.
Yeah. So. I've considered relocating the shop to a place that's a little bit more, I guess I don't quite know the word, just a little bit more like upscale, I guess. And I think that it would probably look better to the person that would be renting the space out, and to the neighbors that I would have, that it wasn't just some like shitty stick and poke tattoo shop that some kid opened up. But if I was like, no, I've taken business classes, management classes, marketing classes, and I don't know if I can necessarily say I'll run with the big dogs, but I can kind of, that I belong there. And, being in like a smaller little marketplace like this seems like, this is a good place to start out. But moving up, I think that if I were to move up in unit space and have bigger, neighbors, that I would probably need to know a little bit more about running a business and marketing and keeping all that stuff. Yeah.
That, or at the very least, potentially finding a good person to like partner with where they can help you, even if they're not like directly in tandem with your business, but like teach you the ins and outs of that kind of.
Oh yeah.
Because like this is going to be going on the Game Geek Grind channel, and so that's a business we're starting up, and we know nothing about starting a business, so it's like we're kind of in the same boat.
Surprisingly, YouTube did a lot of the work for me.
Oh, really?
Watching YouTube videos. There's a lot of channels that are free, and they have courses on managing and opening businesses and things like that. You just have to be.
Might have to have you send me links if you haven't.
I'll send you some links. But yeah, they've got hours upon hours of like starting a business and the checklist that you need to go down and all that kind of stuff to actually really get your business up and off the ground and in a in a professional manner, not just somebody who's like, oh yeah, work out of my garage, come get tatted by me. But stuff like that. I think YouTube probably did 90% of the work when I first started my business. That
never gets it done, right?
Yeah, that and the guy that owns this plaza, like every time he would sneak by, I'd be like, hey, it's like, you're smart. You want to answer a question for me? Or just having friends that have little pieces of knowledge, asking. I think one thing that I do a lot of is ask questions, and I'm way okay with sounding stupid asking these questions because it's, I wouldn't be able to do anything if I didn't ask these questions. I wouldn't know it. It's the whole, there's a quote there, isn't there? Like, you're not going to get any answers. It's not that's not the quote, but like, you're not going to get answers if you don't ask questions kind of thing. Yeah. There's something there that I've heard before.
Yeah.
But yeah, I absolutely am okay with asking.
There's no dumb questions is one that comes to mind.
Yeah. But I will absolutely look dumb for a second to get that answer. As long as I get my answer, I'll look stupid for a second. I don't care.
Yeah. So now that you own your shop, how does it kind of meet the expectations of what is it? Pretty much what you thought it was going to be going in, or is it way more work? It's
a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. I kind of thought that I was going to sign a paper with the state of Arkansas, with the city of Rogers, and then I was going to have a place to go. But we get health department inspections all the time. We get fire department inspections. The city of Rogers, some businessman walks by and he's like, "How many people sitting here at one time?" And I'm like, "I don't know, 6." And he'll like look around and be like, "Well, there could be 100. And I'm like, "Okay." And then he writes something on a clipboard and he walks out. And I'm just like, I don't know if that was a bad thing or a good thing that you just wrote down, or like, I don't know what's going on half the time. There's especially with having other people working here, making sure that they are following specific rules. Like, we can't have expired ink and we can't use specific things. And another rule that I think is kind of, it's understandable but silly, like our ink has to be in a cabinet covered up. We can't have it out in the open. And then just, having to kind of nitpick people. That's the part I don't really like, is being like, hey, your ink has to be in the cabinet. And they're like, well, that's stupid. I'm like, that's not my rule. It's the health department's rule. And if you're not following the health department rules, I'm not following the health department rules. And then we all get in trouble.
Yeah,
and
you will all get punished.
Yes.
For the fact.
Yeah. So yeah. Silly things like that. Like, I have to have, all the paperwork that we keep has to be signed in a specific way. And while they do get in trouble, I get in trouble as well if it's not done correctly. It has to be stored in a specific way. We handle, technically biohazardous material. I mean, poking people and getting their blood all over some things. Right. And so we have to, store that in a specific way, and things that could get us technically shut down if we don't do something the right way. So there's a lot of things that, are kind of behind the scenes of opening. It's not just like, oh, I get to come in and doodle and then leave. I have to, all that fun stuff, make sure it's cleaned the right way, set up the right way, all that kind of stuff too. So,
yeah, I think you'll probably have some good answers for this one.
Oh.
If you could go back in time and talk to yourself about how to maybe better prepare yourself for all of this.
Okay.
Right. What is the thing you would definitely tell yourself to focus on in being better prepared? Like, you had your expectations, whenever you moved to here from being, already being a tattoo artist. But if you could go back to like high school or even younger you, what would you tell that person to focus on to really get you that extra level whenever you get to this point in life?
I don't know. One of the first things that comes to mind just is more checklists, like writing things down. I work really well off of checklists, and a lot of times I'm like, no, I'll remember to do that, and I don't. And so if I had more checklists, I think that things wouldn't be, behind so much, and I think I could get it done a little bit more, trying to stay organized and having everything together. Filing cabinets are great. I didn't figure out filing cabinets were a thing until like a year ago, and I was like, whoa. Yeah, so just trying to keep all that stuff organized, keeping every paper that you're given, even if it looks stupid. If it's a, like a receipt and they give you 2 papers and it just says like, it has like one little quote up at the top or one little like strip of some sort of stupid information, just keep that. Just keep all of it, because in 2 years, for some reason, you're going to need it. And then if you don't have that back paper, they're like, well, that's the paper you need to be alive. So sorry, can't do anything. So just keeping everything and keeping it well organized. Don't just stack everything in a pile and just be like, oh, I can find this later, because you can't. You won't be able to find it. It's gone.
It's been lost to the void.
Yep. And then the checklists to help you, even just a checklist that says put things in the filing cabinet. That would be great. Just things to kind of, I don't know, organization has always been something I've been really bad at and is slowly getting better. But if I could have just started off like that, I bet I'd be on the moon. I'd be on the moon right now. I'd be tattooing on the moon.
Yeah, I'm terrible with organization. Between ADHD, whatever form I am on the
whatever's going on in here
spectrum, like man, organization. I feel like I work better when things are just laying out in
sporadic
places. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, where was this thing? Oh yes, over here. And then until I can't find like the one.
Isn't that funny? Like somebody could be like, okay, where's this really important paper? And you're like, I don't know. And then somebody's like, okay, well, I need a paperclip. And you're like, there's one under my desk.
I saw it by my foot. Like while I was
like 4
at
years
the PC.
ago. Yeah, there was 4 years ago.
I know I
kicked
didn't pick it
so
up.
it's under that table.
I know I didn't pick it up.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, absolutely. I think, but I completely understand with the organization thing. And yeah, if I've learned anything, like from just my experiences with other people, is most of them, especially people who are running businesses successfully, are keeping their stuff organized. And it's like, I kind of learned to be more organized.
Yep.
So, but what about regrets? Are there any like big things that you would say whenever you opened up shop that you regret, or like any regrets, even like just in the tattoo industry in general? Is there anything you kind of regret? And let's
don't.
Maybe avoid the It's a learning experience. Let's avoid that. What's something that if you could just already have learned the lesson prior and like, man, I wish I wouldn't have done this.
Yeah. I don't know. I think not just tattooing, but a lot of things in my life, I like to think right now I'm doing good. I'm doing okay. There's no reason to regret doing something. Like regret seems like it's very loosely used, kind of like, the word love. But like regret seems like such a big thing. And I don't think that there's a whole lot that I'm like, okay, well, that little accident happened, but maybe I needed that. Maybe there's a reason that I didn't make that checklist. Because now, maybe I have a better mental checklist. Maybe now I know like, well, now I have to do this thing because last time when I didn't have it on my checklist, it fucked everything up. So now I know that this is drilled in my head that this thing is really important to do. And so I don't think that I quite have anything that I regret doing. I think that kind of like Bob Ross says, they're just happy little accidents. And I think that those things probably needed to happen.
I think that's a really good way to look at it. And I think that's exactly what I told you not to do, but I'll give it to you. It's hard because it's hard because a lot of the things that happen in life help shape who we are. So it's like you can make any mistake into a learning experience. Yeah. So I completely get where you're coming from.
Yeah, I don't think that I've made any kind of mistake that seemed so drastic that I was like, I wish that did not happen. Or, there's just, I guess, kind of like you're saying, like it all needed to happen, like so that I can do what I'm doing now. If some things didn't happen, I don't know that I would be able to be doing the things that I
handle things as well now.
Yeah.
And I come from that same perspective. Like I crashed my car when I was like 18, 19 in a stupid way.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can safely say I regret that because at the time I really didn't have that kind of money to spend and waste and whatnot. But was it a learning experience? Yeah. Don't drive so stupid.
Yeah.
Don't drive so reckless. So like you can pull a learning experience from every accident. I think overall people should know that, and it's better for them to know that. I was just being facetious, whatever the word is. I was like, is there anything you could just be like, man, if I just didn't do that?
Yeah, I hired a guy one time, and I hope he sees this, and I hope he knows that he was my regret. Hiring him. And you know who you are.
You know who you are.
You know who you are. But I mean, yeah, it's just, I can't even, just in like life in general, there are some things that have happened that are bad, but I
But
needed
it also
it.
resulted in the success that you're seeing there
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah.
I get why that would be very hard to look back on and be
Mhm.
like, yeah, hopefully I wish that didn't happen, but maybe you wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
If
Well,
it
if all
didn't.
those little things didn't happen too, it would be the whole perfect world thing, and then
Right.
maybe we wouldn't.
It'd be boring.
There'd be
too.
there'd be
No downside to
Mhm.
anything.
Yeah, nothing sucks. Ew.
All pretty.
I don't
Ugh,
want to live that
gross.
life.
Okay, I think this is a good one too. What is something that you wish people understood about your job or didn't take for granted? What do you think that, those people on the other side of that camera tell them how much you hate them and how much
I think one of the big things is to understand that we as the artists, like, it might be our job to do tattoos, but we're not copy machines, and that this is really, I can't make something look exactly like something else, even if that was my niche, like my thing. It's not ever going to be perfect. I think that expectation of being like, okay, but that sun ray that I showed you has 13 sparkles and you did 12. Like, it's okay. It will be fine. It's not the end of the world. It's, you can point it out and be like, hey, can you put one little sparkle or little, sun ray in there? That's fine. But some people, like, I have tattooed people before where they've given me an image and I have redrawn it, and they're like, that's great. And then they'll sit there and look at the image and then look at the tattoo as I'm doing it, and that stresses me out. I'm like, you're not going to look at it for the rest of your life. You're not going to have this image for the rest of your life. Just let it happen. Or that the whole, like, I want to specialize in realistic flowers. And so I would not recommend coming to me to be like, can you do this traditional mermaid? Like, no, that's not, I don't do
Your
that
skill
much.
set,
Yeah. That's not what I do. While I can, it's probably it's not good for you to go to me. Go to the artist as a person that wants to do that, and you're going to get a way better tattoo.
Right.
Way better.
And I think that's something that I kind of have learned. So, like, whenever I look over your portfolio, the thing that always pops out to me is I love your shading.
Mm-hmm.
Your shading is among some of the best that I've just ever seen in my opinion.
Oh, thank you.
I like when I look at, I think your shading is absolutely incredible. And so, like, that's something that kind of stuck with me, is different tattoo artists, specialize in different things. And so if you want a copy of something,
Mm-hmm.
or as close to perfect as you can get, make sure it's in that person's wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Like, if and then you can't really blame the tattoo artist if, like, that's not their specialty. Do your own research. Be willing to shell out the appropriate amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go to, some newbie expecting them to be able to do this immaculate, what basically comes out to be like a portrait on, whenever it's literally their third tattoo that they've ever done, and they're charging you like $300. So it's like, you have to find that balance, of cost efficiency, but also quality, but also the specificity of that particular tattoo artist.
Yeah, there's a really fine line between, like, yes, this is something that we're putting on your body forever. You should get what you want. Let me say that. You should get what you want, but you shouldn't just, like, don't just go to me because you've gotten a couple tattoos from me. If you're wanting something completely different, go find somebody else. Go find somebody to do it. The right tattoo artist or your friend tattoo artist should understand that, if I'm not, like I like to do portraits. Seneca does not like to do portraits. His clients may say, like, okay, do a portrait on me. And he's not going to say, okay, let me do it. He's going to be like, no, you're going to have to go to her because she's going to do the portrait. And then, whenever you're done with the portrait, you come back to me, and, like, just go to somebody that's going to give you the best tattoo that you could get. And that's not always the same person. And that can be scary. A lot of people they have the connection. Yeah, they have a connection with somebody. They want to sit in that person's chair for 4 hours, and going somewhere new.
And it's easier to talk, and it's easier to be yourself. And it's completely
the new
understandable.
environment, the new person can be scary, but sometimes, just just close your eyes.
Yeah.
Let it happen. You'll get a better tattoo that way.
What is your concern? Is it getting the best possible tattoo out of the person that you're going to see? Is it having a good time with a friend while they're tattooing you? And then,
Yeah. And it totally could be that too. I'm not saying that, you could be like, well, I'll compromise a little bit of the quality to make sure that I'm super comfortable during this experience,
You can definitely find that happy medium, but it, for sure, like if you need something, I need this to be perfect. It's
and I'm not the person for that. I can't do that. I can't do perfect.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think one of your biggest strengths, at least in my opinion, from the things now you're doing really good with the flower work too. From what I've been seeing, what you've been putting out has been fantastic. On Anna, I love it. Still, I think everyone that we see, like all the different ones, hers is the best.
Yeah, hers is very
I love
pretty.
The color scheme, and I love
hers feels kind of special to me too, because I've done a lot of flowers, and hers was the first one that I was like, okay. It's like, do I love that? Do I love doing this? Is this is this like my thing? Should I just like focus on this? So hers is kind of a very special, tattoo to me as well. And then, I tried to, I don't want to say that like every time I do a tattoo and I want to try to get better, you have to do something different. And that can be really scary. And sometimes you may forget what you did, or, maybe you're like, well, maybe that wasn't the way to do it. So you try it different, and then the flower doesn't come out as great,
Right.
And so her tattoo, I think it came out great. And it was hard to replicate what I did. Like I was trying so many new things and I wasn't sure what I was doing different. And so doing flowers after that, were kind of not stressful, but I was like, dang it, why can't I do that again?
Back to that.
Yeah. And so I think that's where that seminar came in handy, because she kind of was like, this is what we're doing. This is how you do it. Do it. And so I think that helped a whole lot, being like, okay, I knew I could do this, but being told this is what we're doing. This is when we're going to do it.
Doing it.
Yes. Kind of like whenever they're like math equations, whenever they're like, we're going to find X. I'm like, okay, but why? Why do we need to do that? Give me like the little juicy details. I need all that to make it work.
I think some people find themselves being much more successful doing it that way too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm excited to continue seeing the art you put out with the flowers and how that continues.
I keep blowing my mind. I remember it was probably 2 or 3 years into tattooing. I did a rose and I was like, this is the best thing ever. There's no way I can top this. I'm done. And then like a year later, I do another flower and I'm just like, whoa, I can't beat that. And it just keeps happening. It just keeps getting better. And I'm so happy that I allow myself to do that I don't just stop. The first time I did a flower and I was like, that's it. I'm done. Can't do any better.
Right.
I'm loving that I'm allowing myself to continue to learn and figure these things out.
Yeah, just like a flower.
Just like a beautiful flower.
Okay. So I've got a few people that asked me some questions for you.
Oh,
you saw some of them.
Okay.
I kind of sent you, but here's going to be some questions I had, but as well as some I got just from the internet. Hardest part of the body for you to tattoo?
Oof.
Nothing off the table.
Well, there's a couple spots that I'm thinking. I'm trying to figure out why they're the hardest. So to me, if it tickles the person, or if it's something that moves a lot. So like the ribs, they move a lot and they tickle. And every time I touch you, either with my hand that's going to stretch your skin or the hand that's got the machine in it, you're going to move away from me.
Bit.
Yeah. And so it's hard. It's really hard to work on a surface that is constantly moving. And then it kind of makes it a little bit more stressful, because whatever I do to you will stay there. And so if you're moving and I'm not doing what I need to, I sweat. I get so like, oh my gosh, I just want to like knock some people out. I won't, but I want to, and it gets stressful. Yes. And then I'll sit there and be like, okay, well, don't move away from me. But that's really hard to tell somebody who's in pain, and it's completely normal for you to be like, okay, well, this hurts, so I'm going to try to scoot away from you. That's completely normal, but it's so stressful. And, ribs specifically seem to be next to where people kind of just do the whole, like, stop it, I like the skin that gets a little bit of sun damage. I like the skin.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I like
skin. I like smooth skin. I like it. But no, the skin that gets like, sometimes it'll get sunburnt. If you get a sunburn, it's usually like the last part that's going to get sunburnt. So like the lower outside of your forearms, love that. I could tattoo that all day long. The upper thighs, like the outer thighs, have things that, again, if you're out in the sun for way too long, will get sunburnt, but don't get like the shoulders, the back of the shoulders, the neck, face, chest area. That all seems really like, I don't know, that skin seems tougher because it's used to being like damaged and hurt and touching things and all that. But like your outer forearms, your legs are a little bit more protected, but they're not so protected that it's like, it's like that sweet spot. So I do have favorite parts of the body to tattoo, and they're usually like,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Craziest part of the body you've tattooed, or craziest thing you've tattooed?
So surprisingly, I was thinking about this one. I don't think that I've tattooed too many crazy things. I've tattooed a couple things that are probably like really funny. I've been requested to do a lot of weird tattoos, but when it gets too weird, I'm usually like, I'm jacking the price up because it's got to be worth it to me too.
So what has been some of those?
So there was this older gentleman who came into the last shop that I worked at, and he came in 3 times. And what sucks is nobody else was there all 3 times, so everybody thinks I'm lying about it. But he comes in and he's talking about this Pink Floyd back piece that he wants to get, like the wall, like on his back, like the album. And he's sitting there talking about it, and he just stops and goes, Can I get a quote for like kind of a weird tattoo? And I was like, absolutely. I was like, what you got? And he goes, I want a devil on either butt cheek, but I want it to shovel coal into my asshole. So he's like, so it's got to be like tucked in. Yeah. And I was like, oh. And he goes, or both sides. He's like, one or the other or both. And I was like, okay. I was like, you know what? I will do it, but you're going to be paying like $1,500 a butt cheek. And I was like, that depends on the size of the little devil too. I don't know how. Yeah. And he goes, okay.
In there.
Yeah.
Shovel.
Yeah. And he's like, okay. He's like, I can do that. He's like, I can come up with that. And he gets real pumped, and he like gets on a little bike and scooters away. And then he came back twice and said literally the exact same thing. He started talking about the back piece that he wanted, and then goes, stop, pause. I have this weird idea. And I was like, what?
We've had this conversation.
Yeah, and I was like, okay. I was like, what's your weird idea? And he starts talking about the little devils. And I was like, okay. I was like, but yeah. I was like, yeah, I will do it for $1,500 a butt cheek. And he gets real pumped, and he gets on his bike, and he goes away. And he did it 3 times. 3 times. That was probably one of the weirdest things I've gotten. I had a younger girl, message me one time, and she wanted an inappropriate tattoo, like down in her crotch area. And she, you know the Simpsons, how they got those big lips, Well, she wanted Homer Simpson to be like looking down, and her lips that were on her body were his lips. And so I was like, okay, yeah, that's funny. And she goes, okay, I have a genuine concern though. She's like, I want to make sure that my anatomy works with that, because everybody's a little bit different. And I was like, okay, sure. So I had Googled pictures of like this, and I kind of doodled what that would look like, and I was like, this is what it would look like. Yeah, this is what it would look like. And she goes, okay. She goes, but what about like mine? And I was like, okay, professionally, if you would like to, just take a picture of you standing up, and I can tell you if it will work or not. And she goes, okay, I'm at work. I'll text you in like a couple hours, and I'll send you a picture. And I was like, okay. I was like, what an odd job that I have to be like, send me a picture of your vagina professionally, please. Yeah. But
make sure it's not too risque.
Yeah. But I don't know if she was just on something or if she was in a mood, but she's like, I don't want to wait till I'm off of work. So she sent me a video of her. I couldn't even see what she was wanting, but it was like from behind, and she was doing stuff to herself. And she goes, does that work? And I was like, oh. And I immediately blocked her. I was like, no. I was like, we're not doing all that. I was like, that's wild. Yeah. So like people do some weird stuff to, I had a guy one time say, he was from a couple hours away, and he was like, can I call you? So I said, sure. He calls me, and he's like, I killed a bison one time, and this is a picture of it, and texts me a picture, and he goes, he's like, and then I want to send you a couple pictures of my wife so you can so you can kind of understand her character. And I was like, okay. So he sends me pictures of his wife. We get off the phone. He sends like probably, I'm not joking, about 40 photos of just random shit off of his camera roll, and then calls me and goes, "Did you get all those?" And I said, yeah, I did. And he goes, "Okay, what do I need to do to prepare for the appointment?" I was like, "Oh, well, I'm not sure because I don't even know what's happening at the appointment." I was like, so give me a moment. And he goes, do I need to bring like some whiskey or an 8-ball? And I was like, no. I was like, no, we're going to be done there. I was like, I'm not doing this out of my garage. I can't have you doing all that stuff while that's, maybe fun. I can't have you do that.
Right.
So I ended up telling him that I couldn't work with him, and he got real mad. I was like, okay. I was like, sorry, I can't risk it.
Yeah. Like, I know people, best of humanity and the worst of humanity is like two sides of the same coin. Like,
yeah,
that people, could be fun, but it's also like, no, I'm not risking everything I've worked for you to, do some of that in my shop. Like,
yeah.
People are weird.
Mm-hmm.
But one that I got, before I move on this list, there was one I wanted to bring up because you were talking about knocking out someone.
Oh, yeah.
What about, what are your thoughts on, what is it called? Putting someone under.
Oh, anesthesia?
Anesthesia. Yeah. Anesthetic tattoos. I don't know if you know
I
much
have
about
seen,
them.
yeah. I've seen a lot of that.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't quite like it. I think from an artist standpoint, that might be nice to like not have somebody move at all. I just think that the whole experience of a tattoo, and you could argue this. Some people are like, I don't give a shit. I just want a tattoo. I don't care how it happens. You're going to be paying so much money to be put to sleep. And then, there's only so much that we can do in a healthy amount of time for you to be not alive,
Right,
like while you're I think like 8 hours is roughly like the safest way to be, the amount of time to be under. I don't know that if that's a fact or not, but in my head that sounds about right. And so like I can only do so much, so you're gonna have to pay 8 people to do something to get it to be worth that.
Right.
And then, paying to be asleep, and that seems wildly unnecessary. But I guess if it was more of something that was tangible for me, I mean, I don't think I would be opposed to that.
Right.
But I also don't see why that would be necessary. I'd just sit still.
Right.
Just take it for a little bit.
I forget who all. I know there's a lot of like famous people who've done it. Like I know Post Malone's done it. And, so like if you're willing to have that many different people work on you, but then it's also like then you start getting into different tattoo artists and different styles. Are you comfortable with them having completely different styles on different parts of your body?
Yeah.
And like how well are those going to mesh and all of that? So it seems like the logistics would be
It could
crazy.
be. It may just be something that people want to do for the experience as well. Because like I've got tattoos that I wasn't necessarily like, I want this, but it's like, what is that going to feel like? I just want to be able to say that I've done it.
Right.
Like I got one on the bottom of my foot, and I don't think that I was like, oh my gosh, I really, I can't wait to make an appointment to do this. We were kind of just bored, and we're like, you want to do that? Yeah, I'd like to say that I've at least tried it,
Right.
I've got several little weird tattoos like that I didn't necessarily want, but I think is so cool to tell people that I've done it.
Right.
And so it may just be that, Post Malone's got a lot of money. He could probably just be like, yeah, sure. He loves
whatever.
tattoos. He probably doesn't have the time to sit there and sit there for hours and hours and all those appointments and meeting the same people, over and over again. So he might just be like, yeah, let's just knock it out.
Although I can imagine it'd be pretty cool, like going to sleep with nothing and then waking up in an entire canvas.
Yeah.
That would be a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, it would hurt.
It would hurt a lot.
Yeah, I feel like you just got burnt.
But I think that's probably the coolest aspect of it. But for me, I don't think I would want that. I also, anything worth having, it's worth going through the pain of getting. So I think I prefer the idea.
Going back to that like ritualistic part of it about the whole like
it's
earning it almost. Yeah.
It's an experience. And I can't remember. I know you drew on me from below. Did you tattoo me from below too? At some point?
I think I did have you raising your arm up, and I was kind of like
kind of underneath it. Yeah. But
Not
I do remember standing
Yes.
well above you for
Yeah.
drawing purposes. But yeah, that's like, it was an experience. It was something that, I don't know. I personally like that part of it.
Yeah.
The whole experience.
Oh, yeah.
So another one I had, birthmarks. So are you able to tattoo over birthmarks? I have no idea. Or do you normally just have to?
I believe so. It just kind of depends on, like, some people have the birthmarks that have texture to them.
Right.
And they're not actually, like, I don't know exactly what a birthmark is in your skin.
So like,
I
have like these brown spots. You'd be able to
Oh,
tattoo
yeah.
over that?
Yeah.
But if it was like a textured, like, beauty mark, is
Yes,
what some people
yes,
call it, where
yeah.
it's like a skin tag or some kind of, like,
Yes. So anything that could potentially cause problems in the future, moles, things like that, we're not supposed to tattoo over those.
Gotcha.
Even little things like if you have a little cat scratch or a bruise, we're not supposed to tattoo over that because it can just cause issues and problems later on.
And infections.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, moles have they're prone to causing skin cancers or being cancerous and things like that. So if we tattoo over them, it causes a lot of problems. It can also kind of, like, I don't want to say trigger something, but it can cause your body to get really irritated. And there's something that we run into actually a lot, and they're called subdermal moles, and they're moles that are underneath your skin. Whoa. And you can't you don't really know that they're there until you're, like, sitting there pulling on the skin, and you're like, you can feel that little bump under there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's, that's not something that I can quite control, that, we put the tattoo right over it, and sometimes you don't even know it's there until you've gone over it, and you're like, oops. But, there's little accidents like that, but we're supposed to try to avoid things that, like, people will get skin tags removed. We don't need to be tattooing over those moles, things like that, things that could potentially cause.
It's like you can tattoo over things that just cause a discoloration in the skin, basically.
Yeah.
But if it's anything that's where it's actually like a physical abnormality. Thank you. I am a voice actor.
I know words.
That's where it becomes a more complicated issue. So that's kind of what I thought would be the case, but I had someone ask, so just thought I would make sure.
Yeah.
Melanated skin.
Mm-hmm.
What is your experience with tattooing it? Are you not very experienced, but would you be willing to learn? What do you think about the industry and how it's becoming more open to people with darker skin and learning how to appropriately, like, because it's a skill in itself. So what do you think just about it as a whole, but also, like, in direct correlation to what you're doing? Is it something you're going to do you already know, or going to be learning more?
So I've tattooed a fair share of darker skin tones. It does become a little tricky because we're putting a dark ink onto a dark canvas, and it makes it hard for something to show up. And then if you're doing something beyond line work or just a black silhouette of something, you have to be really good at creating a good amount of contrast so that the lighter skin tone that they've got shows up, or the black that you're putting on their skin tone shows up. And so there's a good little art there. There are colors that can go into darker skin. You just have to be very careful about their undertones and just how dark their skin is in general. I mean, there are some, skin tones that are so dark that we're just limited to black. And then, the lighter the skin tone gets, we can put blues in there because blues are typically a pretty deep color. Reds are usually not the greatest on any kind of dark skin tone, just because red is there's a lot of red undertone, so we're going to lose the red. Same thing with yellow. It's just going to be gone. White's going to be, it's like putting a piece of construction paper over the white crayon that we just drew, so there are ways to do it. And I have a little bit of experience doing it. But there are definitely people that, there are a ton of classes and seminars that are specifically for darker skin tones, because it can be very difficult to do the right thing and make sure that it looks right. And I've got basic knowledge of it, but most of my clients are a little bit lighter in skin tone, and I think that that artists will, I don't know, everybody specializes in something a little bit differently.
So you think it's going to be kind of like what we were discussing before, where you have people who are good at line work,
yes,
people who are good at shading, people. You're going to have people who are better at working with darker skin tones.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot of like time that you need to put into that, because there's, like, I could do something that looks like it has a white highlight on a darker skin tone, and it looks great when we first do it. And I've experimented. I've had clients that had darker skin tones, and I was like, can I put white in it just to see what happens? Just so me personally, I see what's happening.
Just for shits and giggles.
Yeah, just so that I can see it. Because being told is one thing, and then seeing it is a completely different thing. So it is kind of, it's very difficult, but being able to just kind of have people and clients that are open to the little bit of experimenting, and then just being like, if we put this purple in your skin and it fades out, like, just come back to me, we'll touch it up, we'll just slap some black in there, that way it doesn't look like it's unfinished. But having a good compromise and people even allowing you to learn is great. That's one thing that's been wonderful about being in such a fun job, is everybody knows that I don't know everything. So if I'm like, okay, well, let's try it. And if we can't do this, we can fix it. Just kind of being a little give and take with everybody.
Learning experiences too, that we were talking about.
Yeah.
It's not a mistake. It's something that you did and it's nice because I assume that in most of those circumstances, you're both going in knowing this might not work.
Yeah.
And, but I think it would be really cool.
A good amount of communication.
Yeah. I think it'd be really cool to see you try a flower.
Yeah.
On a dark skin. I would like to see what that would, I don't have dark skin. So.
Yeah.
But I think it would be cool to see what one of your flowers would come out looking.
Yeah.
Because the adjustments you would have to make in the color spectrum that you were using, obviously. So I think a lot of it would end up, probably going into the design portion of it.
Yeah.
And then,
I think I would be comfortable with that if they were open to doing like a blue or like a purple flower, because those seem to be the most prominent.
Purple would probably be good.
Yeah, I would be doing that. Yeah. But if they came to me and they're like, I want a red rose, that would probably be too scary. I'd be like, hold on.
I don't know.
Yeah.
but no, I think that'd be really cool to see.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We kind of already covered it a little bit. Is there any other ways that you're looking to improve? You just did this class with the
seminar,
with the flowers, but is there anything else that on your horizon that you see that you're wanting to build upon as well that's similar? It doesn't have to be like flowers. It could be.
Yeah.
Know.
So the technique that I learned when doing the flower seminar, I love that, and I really kind of want to try to implement that into like a colored portrait, because I think that I do pretty good black and gray portraits, and I
can't get, like, every time I talk about your work, it's like, and if I go through any of like your previous work or like your books or anything, it's like, oh my God, your shading is immaculate.
Well, thank you. Yeah. But if I could, if it would be one of those things where I would probably do it for, if not free, very little money, and be like, find a face, maybe a famous face. That way, if I mess it up, you still know who it is.
Right.
But find a face and let's try to color it. Cause I've never really I think I've done one colored portrait, and I got nervous going into it, and I kind of switched it last minute and made it more cartoony. That way, if it didn't come out looking perfect, it kind of was supposed to be like that, So that was my intention.
Perfect. It wasn't realistic.
It's a cartoon. It's not a real person. So I have attempted it one time, and I
chickened out.
Yeah.
But it's understandable.
Yeah.
Like
but I think knowing what I know now, or having that guidance that I've had now, I think I could probably try it. But it would be something that I wouldn't, if somebody came to me and was like, I want a colored portrait, I would be like, heck yeah, let's do it. I would be like, okay, well, let's some fine print here.
Set some guidelines.
Yeah.
If it doesn't come out perfect, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll fix it.
We'll work we'll do our top tier work, but it might.
Yeah, if it's a new adventure for me, I'm not going to sit there and pretend like I know what I'm doing. I want to be open and honest, and a lot of times I think that helps a whole lot too, not pretending like I know everything. helps me learn because more people are like, okay, well, she's willing to fix it. She's willing, I'm not paying,
willing to work.
yeah, I'm not paying $800 for one of these flowers. I'm paying $100, like
Right.
something like that. That way they, at least if it gets messed up, they didn't just spend $800 on it. They've gotten a lot of communication with me, and they've gotten a lot of the, I don't know, the whole, like, they didn't spend millions of dollars to get it, and it came out kind of shit, so.
Or even, like, I think people are going to be okay if they spend $100, and because for you, I'm sure there's been ones that have turned out shit, but what I would expect if I came in, paid $100 for a tattoo, I'm leaving with something that's not shit. It just didn't turn out how we wanted it to turn out. And so, like, that's where it, for me, that's awesome. Like, you're willing to take that sacrifice so that you can learn. Yeah. And they're willing to take that sacrifice because they're saving a significant chunk of change. So it works out for both parties.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's, I don't know. I that's probably one of the things I appreciate most about a lot of my clients is sometimes, like, right before we start, I'll just be like, can I do something that I've never done before and just try it on you? And if it comes out great, then that's awesome. And if not, we can fix it. But like, I just want to try it. And a lot of people, especially asking instead of just doing it and then them looking at it and be like, that's not what I wanted, but asking first, most of the time they're like, oh yeah, sure. And then assuring them that if this does not come out the same way, I can fix it. I just wanted to try it,
I have one off the back of this.
Okay.
I'm interested. It's not written down. What's one that you're comfortable about talking about that you fucked up? That you fucked
up. My Lanta. I can think of a few. So I recently, right off the top of my head, there was a girl that had come in and she wanted like a butterfly on her throat right here. Or I think it was a rose. I think we did the butterfly later. Maybe she just has one that seems a little bit more prominent. But I think it was a flower right here. And she wanted it just pretty simple, black and gray. And she had, I don't remember why exactly, but it was not coming out the way I wanted to at all. I was on the verge of crying. I did not feel good. I didn't want to keep going, but I have to, Right. So we were taking a lot of breaks. We were stopping a lot. She was in a lot of pain. I think that spot, I haven't tattooed the front of the throat a whole lot. And so, after a couple hours we're done and I was like, I don't love it. She stood up and she was like, I don't really see anything wrong with it. And I was like, but I don't love it. I don't want you to walk out of here and be like, I paid $400 for this. And so I don't remember if I charged her very little or if I had charged her nothing at all, but I was basically like, I don't want money for this. Like, this does not deserve money.
You're like, I don't want you to go out into the world and be like, I was charged this amount of money for the work from Karina.
Yes,
this is like,
yes. And that is one of the worst things, one of the worst feelings probably to tell somebody like, I have fucked up. I think I fucked up. Yeah. I don't think that she saw too much wrong with it. And I think being the artist, you probably see a lot more. Yeah. But there are definitely like in that instance. And I did tell her, I was like, come on back, give it about 6 weeks to heal up and everything. And we'll just try to approach this in a different way. And we'll shade it a little bit better and we'll fix it up. But I don't believe that I charged her for the touch-up part. And I think if I did charge her something, it was like just pay the $20-$40 to set up or whatever. And instead of the $400 that I had originally told her. And then, there was one person that I had, it wasn't even really my fault, I think. But, like, she was getting a little paw print on her wrist, and it was like every time I would fill it in and I would go to wipe to kind of get that smudge away from everything, it would like pull everything out of her skin and nothing was staying in there. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? And I would do it again. And I was like, I can't go over it too many times, or you chop it up and scar tissue it, and or you chop it up and you kind of ruin it.
Right.
And so there's every time I wiped it, it just like sucked all the ink out of her skin. And I was like, I have no fucking clue what's going on. And so I believe I didn't charge her. And I was like, well, come back and we won't charge for a touch up and we'll just fill this back in. Maybe she took Tylenol or something, or some sort of ibuprofen, or not ibuprofen, antibiotic. And, maybe something is messing with her skin. and we can fix this. And she comes in and we did it again. It does the exact same thing. Like the previous tattoo healed like shit. It looked awful. And I touched this up twice. So we did 3 passes on it. And I was finally like, I can't. I'm sorry. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I don't know. And I'm pretty sure I've tattooed her before and it didn't do that. And that was the only time I've really had that problem. But it was like every time I would insert the ink into her skin and wipe it off, it just got sucked back out. And I still can't explain that one. I don't know what's going on with that one.
That sounds odd.
Yeah.
Maybe she was taking some kind of medicine that was really just messing with her chemical makeup or her, I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea with that one. And I'm probably sure she's covered it up by now, but, it just, that makes me feel awful that people can walk around with something that I've done permanently to them that did not. Yeah. Like that feels awful.
Feels dirty.
And and it feels like I'm not doing the good things in the world that I need to be,
But things are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You've done so much good work that, the offset is just, you're successful, so it shows. Like you've done plenty of good work. You're going to have times.
Yeah.
I just wanted to if anything, it's to show them that you can fuck up and still make it. Like, you can have times where you mess up. Just make sure your mess ups aren't all the time. That's probably
consistent. I mess up, but I mess up consistently, so everybody expects me to mess up.
Do you have a favorite tattoo on you?
So I get asked that all the time, and I think it changes from day to day, like how I'm feeling. There are some that are more important that make them a favorite, and then some that are just really cool that make them a favorite, and some that look really good that make them a favorite. So I don't think they're all like my babies. I don't have a favorite, but I do have
one from each of those categories. One that means the most, one that you think just looks really cool, and then one that you're like, man, that just came out beautifully.
Yeah. Well, so meaningful wise, I have a couple little like images that are for people like my siblings, and then one for so I have a pickle tattoo, and he's got a pirate hat and an eye patch. And so what kind of sparked that was I had gotten so I had met my biological dad when I was 19, and I have my entire life had this weird taste for pickles. I love pickles, love them. I would die if somebody was like, okay, well, pickles are extinct.
Do you like cucumbers?
I love cucumbers.
I don't like cucumbers, but I love pickles.
Really? I like cucumbers. But yeah, so pickles are just like, it's my kryptonite. I would die for a pickle. I don't know, just something funky, I guess. When I met my biological father, he lives on a boat. He's a pirate. He was the first time I had met him, I walked into his little boat, and I was like, do you ever got any snacks? And he's like, look in the little fridge. I opened it, there's like 10 jars of pickles, and I was like, do you love pickles? And he was like, I do, but also like they stay good for a long time. So being on a boat, there was a lot of pickle options, and I was like, okay. And so I had already known that I wanted to get a tattoo of a pickle because of how much I love them. But now you knew. And now, so then at the appointment, I was like, can we actually add like a little pirate hat and a little eye patch to it just to give it a little bit more of like a little
flavor?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so I have a favorite tattoo because of the, like, I guess the reactions that people get. I got both my armpits are tattooed. And I've got this really pretty rose on one side, and I like to show that to people because it's a lot of detail. Obviously, I sat for a long time to get it, and just people being like, whoa, you're so cool. I'm like, oh my gosh, thanks. I'm so neat. And then I've got one that just like is really inappropriate, and I like to show people that just because of the whole like, people get tattoos for very meaningful reasons, and then I'm like, well, look at this vulgar thing that I got. And I tucked it in like really close to my upper inner thigh, so you can't really see it unless I'm showing it to you because I got kids and I can't walk around in an elementary school with a butt plug on my leg. But I did get one just because I was like, well, they always have the little sparkles on them, and I think that'd be such a cute little like thing to get, like a funny, like,
Yeah.
I'm starting to run out of meaningful ideas. There's only so many. So, I have to get the little funny, I say have to, I will get the little funny things,
no,
if
you
I
have to.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
have to
it's
keep
part
drawing.
of my
You have to keep.
it's part of my job to
That's
get a
awesome.
butt plug tattoo. Somebody's got to do it.
That the pickle, a butt plug, and the rose.
Yes, yeah. Probably my favorite ones to tell people about. Yeah.
That's awesome. Is there any other like artistic endeavors that you have, like outside of tattooing? Like I know you said you've done portraits. You're wanting to do that. You've done the book, the children's book. Is there anything else in that vein? I know you occasionally just do a couple of things here and there, but
so
you're like super interested in.
Yeah, so I actually also illustrated a coloring book. And I
forgot about
that. And it's actually flower themed. Surprise, surprise. So I did it probably took me about 9 months to birth this little project. I just found a bunch of really odd flowers because I feel like everybody knows about roses and what they mean, and lilies and what they mean. And I think I did put a rose in there just to have some like more bland designs. But I tried to pick flowers that had a lot of interesting history to them. And then I had done a little bit of research on these and put some paragraphs below all of the flowers to kind of give you insight on what these flowers are and how they're usually used. And some of them can be used for medicine. Some of them are used to poison. Some of them are used for very specific reasons, like why brides would use the specific flowers because of this, and just fun facts about them so that it's not just like, oh, I drew a bunch of flowers, here you go, color it. I wanted you to know that there's a passion behind it. That it wasn't just like, oh, I want
ones the
chrysanthemums.
Yeah, I was close. Isn't that like used for like funerals or something, or I forget. It's in a foreign. I think it's French in France or something. There's some kind of meaning that like you're not supposed to do that. Bring that, like if you were to bring it to a wedding, people would be like, oh, or something like that.
Oh, I don't know.
Something I learned in one of my classes. I want to say it was my French class.
Yeah.
So it was like, that means dead or dying or something. So
oh my, I don't know. I'll look into that.
Yeah, I just wondered if there was anything like that in the book.
I do have a really, so brides, whenever they're like walking down the aisle, they're always holding a bouquet of flowers. That started, I cannot tell you exactly when in time, but a very, very long time ago when like baths weren't so much a thing. And like, you couldn't shave and stuff. Women would pick these very fragrant flowers, being roses and lilies and things like that, to mask the scent of their bodies.
Their nastiness.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yeah. So they would walk with the flowers in front of them so that it would like cover their scent, so that whenever they did things, they would, they'd smell a little bit better. So that's why they started doing the whole flower bouquet thing. And I think that's super cute.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
And really cool.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So we spent a lot of time here. I've got one more question, and then I'm going to throw it to you for you to, throw up any kind of social medias or anything that you want to put out there.
Yeah.
Or any projects you've got going. If there's one thing that you would like to let the audience watching know, I'm curious about like, if they're curious how to start their way in this industry, where would you tell them to start? Okay.
That's a good one. So you're going to have to, your biggest thing is going to be impressing an artist and convincing an artist to want to teach you to tattoo. Tattooing, again, going back to the whole sacred thing, is like, this is our craft. This is fun. And this is something that, we get to kind of do whatever we want to do all the time. But it's kind of like plumbers or carpenters, or like you have to know a lot about it. And just because you can paint doesn't mean you can tattoo. And just because you can I don't think I can paint for shit. I hate painting. Don't like it. But like using colored pencils, it's just another medium, and not everybody will be great at it. Just because you are, again, good at colored pencils doesn't mean you're going to be great at tattooing. I think the best way to get a good education is to find a good artist who is willing to teach you and impress them, show them that you have the drive and the will to do it. There's a lot of people that are like, okay, well, I'm going to pay you, so just do it for me. It's like, no, I want to make sure that I can sit here with you for this long. Like, I don't want to teach somebody who doesn't quite give a shit, or somebody that's not super interested or just wants it because it's like, oh, well, it looks like you make enough money. Like, well, I want to do too. This is something that, good artists, we care a lot about this, and we don't want to just bring anybody and everybody into it, because then it doesn't feel so special. And so we want to bring the right people into it. So if you want to be the right person, you're going to have to show a lot of compassion and the will to do this. I mean, you're going to have to, the way that I had kind of helped me get into it was getting tattooed by the same person and consistently expressing, I would like to do this. I think I would be good at this. Look at this piece of artwork. Don't you think this could do something? And doing that for a while, like not just showing up to a random shop. And some shops will take it, but I would be more concerned about just walking in one time and being like, here's my portfolio. Do you like it? Yes. Okay. Yay. Let's do it. But really creating a relationship with somebody and allowing them to, to figure out that you guys, there's going to be a relationship there. So it needs to be somebody that you both get along well, you both like each other, and that you're both on the same wavelength of, I'm going to be your master, you are going to be my student, and this is how this is going to work. It's not just a job or a little internship or something like that. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. So I think finding an artist, impressing that artist, and having a good relationship with them was going to be your best bet. And then also just making sure that the artist that you were going to is legally licensed to train would be the best part. Because there are a lot of great artists who would probably take your money thinking that they could train you. Or, I've heard of cases where they say that they can train you, and then they just take you and you clean the shop for 6 months, and then they're like, oh, you're fired for some reason, and they can fire you. They can do that.
Yeah.
You're not an employee.
Right.
And so, they just basically use you as like a little maid for a little bit, and then they kick you out. So I think that there's a little bit of like a legal, like, make sure the health department in Arkansas specifically, the health department does have a list of licensed artists and shops that can teach, and I would go on there, and then I would try to find the best person on there that would be able to teach you. So, making sure that you might have to get 5 or 6 tattoos from 5 or 6 different people, but I think that should be a sacrifice you're willing to make,
if
to
this is
sit
the
there.
industry that you really want to go into.
Yeah, I think that's a sacrifice you're going to have to make by sitting with somebody and having a good conversation with them and figuring out, like, maybe I can't spend the next year learning under you. You're just too cocky, or maybe you're too something that I don't like, and finding the right person. I think it's a big, I think the relationship there is something that should be the most important. While it can be super easy to just kind of be like, oh, well, this person will teach me and take it. I think that the relationship is going to be the best, the most important thing for you, aside from the legal stuff.
Right. So what she's saying is create a checklist.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Create a checklist. Create a
filing cabinet.
First thing, legal. Are they legal to be teaching you?
Yes.
Secondly,
do they have a filing cabinet?
Secondly, do they have, is there artistic style? Would you say that's probably a big,
yeah, I think that would be
important. Does that fall into build up your portfolio of things to bring to their attention, and then make sure you guys communicate well.
Yeah, and
go
back into that YouTube world of, like, YouTube can show you how to make a wonderful portfolio that any artist would like to see. Traditional artists or even realism artists would love to see a portfolio, and YouTube can kind of help you, show you what pieces you should do to show that you are interested. Because just painting something and bringing it in might not be as interesting as doing something that's maybe a little bit more tattoo specific, and it might be hard to know what that is. So again, YouTube, it's free.
Yeah. A lot of my voice acting stuff, like, I've just scoured the internet. I should at some point look into more direct coaching.
Yeah,
I've gotten some, but I pay maybe some big bucks for some more direct coaching.
Yeah,
but yeah, thank you so much.
Of course.
For I think a lot of people are going to enjoy a lot of this.
I hope so.
Maybe even to the point where I thought of other questions like that I didn't even get to like type down and other stuff like on the way over. Like, so it's like, man, there's so much that I feel like I could ask you. People may ask for a second one. If that happens, I might reach out and see if there's a part 2, if there's enough content for a part 2. But regardless, always love talking to you. This is your time. If you want to throw any, projects you've got going, any, if just social media that you want to share, anything like that, go ahead and let them know.
So, like we were talking about earlier, I just recently published a coloring book. And you can buy those on the Marble Ink website, which is just www.marbleinkstudio.com. Ink is with a K, just so you know. A lot of people think it's INC, like we're
incorporated.
Yeah, like we're a real big business.
You're like, no, literally.
No,
ink.
It's tattoo ink. And then just like 99% of my business comes through Instagram. I like to try to keep it all on there. And my Instagram handle is just my first name is Kae, and then I put a dot in it. I don't know why. RINA, then another dot, and then art. So that's my Instagram, and I think that's all I really want to shout out. I guess if any tattoo artists are listening to this, my coworker is making a
So unfortunately, they weren't ready to make this announcement yet, but a little bit of a teaser for you guys.
I don't think that we've got any kind of website or things that you can order right now, but it's something to keep an eye out for.
Okay.
I thought I would toss that out there too, because I'm sure there will be a couple.
And if I
artists.
ever need to edit to add it in, I'll do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. That sounds really, really cool. Really
Isn't that
useful.
neat?
I think a lot of tattoo artists will be.
Well, I was thinking about that too when we were setting this up. That would be great.
But I think that's it then.
Awesome.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it too.
We've been talking with Karina Gregory, and that's all we got for this one. See you next time.
Bye-bye.